Alrighty, we're recording. So, a couple things came up over the break, and I used Pages so much I kind of forgot that some of these things weren't active here.
Recording.
Yep, got it, thank you. We just turned it on. Okay. I wanted to wow you with the Instant Alpha, and I think hopefully I did. That's just such a neat tool that's worth the price of admission of $20 on Pages. But now remember, Pages for the Mac, while it works and sends your documents to the iOS device, iPad, iPod Touch, or iPhone, it's a separate app on the iOS device. And it's what, it's $10, I think. So an app for the Mac is not the same as an app for the other device in that you have to buy them separately, but they interact back and forth quite well. So just make sure you delineate that. Yes?
I've got Pages on all of them, and some documents appear on some others. How do you determine which ones are going to be on your, your...
It all has to do with your iCloud settings. So let's not go out in the weeds that direction. But if you're doing them to the iCloud, they will show up on your other device, as long as it's...
You can pick some, right?
No, if it's on iCloud, it will show up on your other device, which means everything on the iCloud will be there. Okay, this is normally how your screen comes. I like to activate a few things. Under View, first and foremost, I say Show Layout. Because then you'll notice this gray around it. It shows me what my printer margins are, depending on what printer I have selected in my preferences at that time. And that's always useful because, if you're going to be real creative and you're going to want something to go near the edge or whatever, you see that you have a little gray area right here. And actually, that's funny because rulers aren't usually on there either, okay? So that's one, Show Layout. The other one I always like to have up is Show Rulers, because Lou Coppola was asking about he needs to do a little ad for a newspaper that's, let's say 2 inches by 4 inches. Randy works for the SAC-B, and they have people do ad sizes all the time. Well, rather than make a whole page that's a custom size, with these little grids, and let's go ahead and open up a new, I'll open a new document. New from Template Chooser. I'm going to make it like this. Now, I have guidelines. Everybody see the little blue guidelines? Like that? Do you know why they're that color blue? Do you know when you used to do ads and stuff by hand, there was a blue pin that was called non-repro blue. And if you put it on there, it was a color that wouldn't photocopy or go printers. So you could make your guidelines and it would not show up. Same thing here. These will not print. So in the case of Lou Coppola, he wanted, let's just say his ad was going to be 2 inches, and I like to put them in the middle. So there's 2 inches and 4 inches, right? And I can move. By the way, if you're using a trackpad, for greater accuracy, roll your finger. Same on your iPad too, because it's really hard to move those increments. Roll your finger, okay? So I'm going to say the ad is a 4-inch long. So I'm going to go right to there. And I'm going to pull this one down to the 5. So there are my guidelines. Now, guidelines are neat because when I go to make a shape, what I told him for his ad is realistically you can do guidelines and you can see what your ad would look like on there. You don't have to change the whole page size. But I'm going to make a box that is that exact size. And when I go down here, there's the box. So I could put this ad anywhere, right? So the ad's there. So this kind of gives you an idea of what you want to do the ad in. I also use this when I'm using like the Instant Alpha. A lot of times I can't tell what the border looks like behind. So I'll put something behind it to make sure I've gotten all the little artifacts. For instance, let's say you have one of those clip arts where there's a hole in the middle that you want transparent. You wouldn't see that unless you did this. Actually, let's do that really quick. Hopefully our internet's okay. By the way, the Empower Mac page is back up. Whew. Don't tell anyone it was down. It wasn't Ken's fault. He was so busy preparing for this class, and he was so focused on it that it kind of went down. But anyway, that's actually, so this is coming up February 23rd, 24th. Pages for the iOS device, pages for Mac. Believe me, you'll get so much more out of that than you will here. This just touches on. You're going to have 3 hours of hands-on of pages for the Mac there after you have 3 hours of this. There's a 1 hour break in between. They have food there you can purchase or bring your own in. Then the next day is Keynote for the iOS, iPad device, etc., and then for the Mac and numbers. Okay?
That's here?
No, that's at Sierra View Country Club out in Roseville. It's $39 a class or $99 for all 6 hours, and your first class is always free. And money back guarantee. If you don't feel like you got every last cent out of that $39 class or the, so it's what, $25? Or actually, so let's say you sign up for the weekend and it's the first time you've come, you get 25% off because it's one class free. You can sign up on here. You don't have to pay on site. You can pay on site if you want. We take credit cards there and everything else. But it is great. How many here have attended Empower Mac classes? And how many are going to be attending more Empower Mac classes of those? So, you know, it really, bring your computer. It's really good. Pete does a fantastic job.
How is it different from this?
This is more like a lecture situation. That's a lab situation. You bring your computer, it's hands-on. Pete's teaching the class, Sean and I are back. If you're having issues with here, we come up behind you and we say, okay, no, yeah, you get here and you get caught up. You'll actually go through and build a project. You'll do it hands-on, where this is really just giving you a taste of it. So it's a pretty intense, I mean, it's not intense stuff. It's like you get a lot done and you really walk away with a lot. And then the cool thing is you get back and you start doing stuff and you have these aha moments like, God, that's what that was. And you apply it. And I'll tell you, you really learn a lot about your Mac that way. Go ahead.
And you say iOS, I don't know.
That's iPad, iPhone, and iPod Touch. iOS. We have the Mac operating system for our Mac, which is Mac OS. And you have the iOS operating system here. So we're delineating between the two. And we're spending about half our time on iPad. Because there's some people now, and especially even in MacNexus, that aren't or weren't Mac users that are coming in with iPads. And that's going to be more and more of the audience for everyone, because these, you can do, everything I've done so far today can be done on this. Go ahead.
If you know how to use it on the Mac, is it more intuitive?
Yeah, but it's only some of the hand structures and things. But to be honest, when you really get good at it, I'm using a mouse to move these things around. It's kind of nice to just be able to use your finger. I mean, ultimately, this is a better interface. This or my iPad 2 that's for sale. You could use either one.
Hey, what are you asking?
It sold for $829. I'm proud. I'd sell it for $400 probably. Brand spanking new with, it's got bumpers on it and it's got a chrome grille and everything else. So. All right. Now, going back to our apple pies really quick. This one would be tough to do instant alpha because it's got all these gradients. So I cheated and picked a real easy one. But I want to show you this thing we were talking about here for, let's say, clip art. It was apple pie. We're going to go to images. We're going to go to, search tools, line drawings. Because I'm going to show you a little discrepancy here in what you have to do. And come on, Internet, be cooperative. Okay, so here's a good example. So I'm going to pick this image. because there's, Instant Alpha is going to be a tool you're going to use a lot. You're going to go rush home, and you're going to start using Instant Alpha, but I'm going to show you what happens with it as soon as this loads. Copy image, go to pages. So I'm going to paste that here, and I'm going to take my little green background and make it bigger so you can kind of see what our white is, right? So now I have to click and select this again, and just like we did before, I go to Instant Alpha and I drag this, and you'll notice it got rid of this. And this is actually not a great example because I did that, but let's say that this was the middle of a O or something. I want to go here, and I hit Instant Alpha, and I do this area. See? So it does it. So if you had an example that was better than my example, let's say it was you've seen the things where the body, or there's a baseball cap, and then his arms here like this, and you want this to be hollow. That's where you would remove that center, and that's what your Instant Alpha does. So that wasn't a great example. But actually, here's a great example. Perfect. The coffee cup. Okay. Copy image, go back to pages. Let's get rid of that one. Oops. Command Z, that's your favorite key. Command Z, that's undo. Because a lot of times you're moving something around and you go, oh crap, I didn't want it there. Command Z undoes. And in pages, you can go back 30 steps. You can go back 100 steps. Boom, boom, boom. So I'll show you the example of that. Let's say I move this. Oh, I didn't mean to move that. I meant to move this. Oh, well, how do I go back? And where are our cheat sheets? Up here at undo. Undo. And what's the cheater for it? What's it say? Command Z. Boom. Undoes. Okay? How many times do you click the wrong thing and you move it, and then you're trying to get it back where it was? And you know you didn't get it back exactly where it was. Command Z. I can undo. Undo, 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 undo. I mean, how many levels of undo do you want? Oh, I went too far. Edit, redo, because I wanted that big green background, right? So I'm going to eliminate this. Oops. Command Z, it saved me. Thank you, thank you. Because I had both of them selected. I want to delete that and put the new one here. Okay, coffee cup, good example. I'm going to go here and do format, Instant Alpha, really simple. I want to do that. There it goes. But look at the handle on the coffee cup, right? I want to go. Everybody see where the little spot should be? So if I go to Format, Instant Alpha, and just click right in the center there. Now that's how it should look, huh? But I got this little thing down here. See this little white artifact? All right. I could Instant Alpha that, but kind of gradients are always real tough. So what I'm going to do is say, I'm going to draw, how am I going to do this? Let's say, I'm going to go up here to Shapes, and I'm going to go here to get this little freeform Bezier tool. That's geeky. Careful. And I'm going to click, 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 click. Now, I don't care how close I am, right? I just want to make sure I don't touch any of the bad spots. Oops. What am I going to use? What key? There we go. That's a little close. There we go. Now I click the connector. So now I've made a new shape. It's completely independent of this thing, right? Command Z to get it back where it was. So I have two shapes. So I'm going to click first on my little weird outline. That's as good as I can draw, okay. I'm going to hold the Command key and select this item too. So I have two things selected. And if I go up here and say Format, Mask with Selected Shape, and now when I hit Return, that little white artifact went away because I did it. Let me show you a little different way to do that. I use the Bezier tool, which is up in shapes, down here to the little ink, okay? But I'm going to do a different one here. I'm going to do a rounded corners one, just so we have it. And let's say I really just want to show that part of the coffee cup, okay? Let's get rid of this for a second because we know actually I'll just delete it. We know that we've gotten rid of the background, right? And actually, let's see, now my green's on top. I want to arrange the green and put it underneath, okay? Think of it as papers stacked on your desk. You can shuffle the order and whatever's on top's on top, okay? They're layers. But what I want to do is, I have a shape that's a rounded rectangle box, which, by the way, I grab that little blue thing right there. Watch this. Oh, I can change my corners of my rounded rectangle. Okay, that's that little blue indicator right there. Now, I've selected it, and I'm going to Command-click, and I'm going to say also Format, Mask with Selected Shapes. I have 2 shapes selected, and look at that. It masks that out, and there's just that part of the coffee cup. So, got an old photo, old girlfriend, boyfriend. Want to mask with selected shape. Actually, there's a neat thing I saw recently. It was actually at a Microsoft. I was on a cruise, and Microsoft sponsored this demonstration. And they had a deal where it was a family on a picnic table, and they were taking photos of it. And there's a new thing, and Adobe has it now too, where you take the picture a few times, but Johnny's like this one time and the rest of the time, so that you can meld them all together by position, and it basically pastes the good photo of the person over the others, and could insert you right back in the same photo if you took the picture, but then had a picture taken of you with the same background. It's really pretty cool.
And you can do that in this?
No, that was a tease. All right, so as we talked about, its view is rulers, I find, and layout are really good. Now, the big things you want are right over here, Inspector and Media. So I'm going to go back to our little newsletter, and the first thing I'm going to do is put Media there. So Media is everything on your computer. Photos, videos, or audio. Not so much used on this. On Keynote, you'd use audio a little more. But if you did email this to somebody, you could have an audio attached to it. But let's say that we're not really wanting to talk about this car. We've got apple pie, so what makes you think more of apple pie than a volcano? I just simply, let's Command Z that. Now, what did I do here? The template has a portal, a holder for a photo. Well, he's driving on the wrong side of the road, first off. Wait a minute, let's fix that. Let's fix that. According to us, he's on the wrong side of the road. I highlight that, and let's go to Arrange and say Flip Horizontally. Now he's on the right side of the road. So no longer is this a British magazine. We got to put a U.S. flag up at the top, right? Now, do you trust the cops when they come to court and they have pictures of you doing different things? So anyway, that was again Arrange, Flip Horizontally. Now, if you're in Australia, and let's Command Z that. Oh, let's Command Z it. Okay. He's driving on the left side of the road, the not correct side of the road. All right. So let's say I want to take, and, oh, here we go. Here's a great picture. I'm going to take this. I didn't take it. That's why I can say it's a great picture. I just drug that over to it. From over here, it's my iPhoto library, but my iPhoto's not open. It peers into my iPhoto library, and in iPhoto library, what I always do, if I'm going to make a newsletter project, I go into iPhoto, and grab one of my folders. I make a folder. Let's say I'm making a newsletter about volcanoes or Arches National Park. I'll make an album with all my the pictures I might use in the newsletter. Put more in than you think you use, and then you just go down here, and you can go from Mobile Me, Sunset 612. All right, we'll go to this one. Actually, we'll go to... So here's our guy eating breakfast. Okay? All right, well, he's not eating apple pie. Maybe he's going to have that after he eats the fish to get that fishy taste out of his mouth. All right, so that's peering into your iPhoto. You can also take, remember we took the original apple pie photo from Safari and pasted it in here. And the last thing you can do from iPhoto itself, you could drag the photo into it.
Ken,
Yes?
you have not the iPhoto. You imported the picture, but you left it on your desktop.
Don't do that.
And
Don't do that.
Always put everything into the iPhoto?
Always.
Oh.
Never, ever just pull them into your desktop. Why would you do that?
I do that for flexibility. Because iPhoto is filled with, I've got pictures for the last 8 years in there, jammed in there, and if I want to find a certain picture, you know, it's very difficult.
Make albums.
Well,
Use
yeah.
keywords.
Okay.
Keywords.
Keyword.
Pictures of people. iPhoto has facial recognition. iPhoto class, whole new thing. Seriously, don't do it to your desktop because you actually can lose your photos because of the way the card does it and everything else. iPhoto is your shoebox. It's the best way to index your photos, and Time Machine backs it up really well. Don't put a bunch of junk on your desktop because it'll slow your machine down. If you have to put it on your desktop, put it in a folder. Because everything on your desktop, it treats like an open file, and it will slow down.
I put it in a folder, and I got a bunch of...
Use iPhoto. Trust me. You paid nothing for iPhoto, but use it like you paid a lot for it. Actually, you paid a lot for it because it was the machine. Go ahead.
If you put a folder on your desktop and put a bunch of pictures in the folder on the desktop.
If it's in a folder, it's fine.
Can you drag?
But I wouldn't do. Don't do that. Put it in iPhoto.
Can you drag the folder?
Put it in iPhoto first. Remember my 12-step program? Let's keep it down to 1 step. iPhoto works very well with it. You're likely you might get duplicates. You might do. Use iPhoto or Aperture or Lightroom. Go ahead.
Kim, when you're putting those photos in there, are you making albums in iPhoto? Is that what
Yeah, so this is looking at, and the reason I say make an album in iPhoto, you know, when you're going to make a book or you're going to do something, you want to get your photos together there first so you can kind of look through all your photos, because looking in that shoebox is really good rather than 12 different desktop folders. And you get it in, you make the album of the pictures you might want to use, and that makes it easier to go find them here because you can see we're just a viewer of iPhoto. So I just make an album.
And then it'll actually have a name like, these are the
Yeah,
photos
this
of the
newsletter or you know, breakfast or whatever it is. This is shots of breakfast and apple pie, whatever you want to put it in there. And again, remember, when you do the clip art, you could have saved it to iPhoto too and put it in that. So go ahead, Setsuko.
You could make 2 iPhoto libraries.
This isn't an iPhoto class.
Yeah.
So just put everything in iPhoto and go get the things from it. So you'll notice the little keys here. Watch what happens when I move the keys around. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go back to the inspector. This is, it's like you look at this and they say, how do I work with pages? All your tools are in the inspector. And if I click inspector, we're going to go across and I'm going to hover over each thing and it says, whoa, that's the document inspector. I'm going to hit them all and then we'll come back. It's a little slow. Layout inspector. Wrap inspector. This one throws people wild sometimes, especially if you're using text layout. How it wraps the text around the thing is a little bit cumbersome at times. T, text, okay? That's all the different things you can do with your fonts, and you won't believe what you can do in a minute. Graphic inspector, that would be boxes, squares, circles that you want to adjust. The metrics inspector, you notice, is like a ruler. I can go in here and I can say, well, move that thing like that. Or I can tell it how many degrees to do it. Command Z. Tables, you can do little tables. If you don't want to fire up numbers, you can do little. This is where if you're going to embed something in, you can either make calculations, but more than anything, you want a little spreadsheet type thing in there. You can also do wonderful charts. We won't spend much time on charts, but you will not believe how cool the charts are you can build in this thing. Yes, charts are cool if you make them cool. Link inspectors. Here you can basically put website links in your Pages document, so when people get it either in a PDF or in Pages, it'll boom, pop right up. And the last time's a QuickTime thing, but you don't need that because you're not going to embed any movies. So we'll look at the first one is the document setup. Now, let's say I got into this and I go, oh, you know what? I really want this in landscape. I would go here to Page Setup, click on Page Setup, and I could change it to landscape, and it's going to look really ugly. Okay, so Command Z. But that's how you do that. The other thing, and the question came up earlier, let's go to a new, I'm going to go to a new template chooser, and I'm going to go into a blank word processing document. This is your guys' thing here. When you go, everybody ever notice when you go up here, there's a darn header there all the time, and you go to try to enter text, and it's persistent. Well, all that is if you're in document, you have headers and footers. Okay, they're there by default. So if I don't want headers and footers, now there's nothing there. Now, if you never want headers and footers, so Pages thinks you want something a certain way. What is it, Burger King, have it your way or something like that? You can have it your way. So I'm going to take a text. I'm going to take this document, and I want it to always use Hobo Standard at 36 point, and I want the text color to be red and bold. Oh, it won't do bold. And I want to set this, and now what I do is, that's how I want to start every one of my documents, without headers, without footers, with Hobo with red text, okay? Let's see how that looks. I'm sure you'll all love it. Okay? That's how it would look. But now, if I save as a template, you could call it your Hobo template, or whatever you choose to call it, and we'll save it as a template, and I'll say Hobo, just because that's that text. And now I'll close that. I don't want to save this. But I go up here and say Open New from Template Chooser and go down to My Templates, and what's there? Set it up the way you want it. If you want rulers, don't want rulers, do whatever you want. And you can have multiple ones of these. You could have letterhead. You could have anything but Comic Sans. Inside joke, right? Set up the template, whether it be in the text or the word processing, and make that be your starting point. And don't be afraid to save a bunch of templates, because they really don't take up much room, and it gives you that starting point you want. I have a tendency when you draw squares and boxes, I don't like the color that it does it, so I'll tell it to do a certain color to begin with. But if I open this Hobo, you'll notice there's no header and footer, and sure enough, it's right like we wanted it, right? Okay? So that's, again, save as template. Now, when something's a template, whether it's from them or from you, when you open that, remember I opened this template from Hobo, and it's called Untitled 5. It's a very creative name that they decided to give to it, and I'm sure that's very appropriate, and you'll be able to search and find Untitled 5 without that. But when you fire up a template, it will always prompt you to save it as a new name. So the beauty of that is, if I go into my template chooser, Hobo, and I go to blah, 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 and I go to close it, it's going to prompt me to save it, always. And at that time, you could name it. This was hobo text from this particular class, blah, blah, blah. Now, I usually want to save it to the iCloud because documents don't take up a ton of room. You have 5 gigabytes of space, and I can pick it up on my other device. But if you choose to save it to the rest of your Mac, you just click here and then say, well, let's put it in my documents folder, or your recent documents folder is always down here. But if I just say documents, now I can open this little triangle, and I can say, well, in my documents folder, I wanted an address book backup or whatever. I can change the name to test, and then I hit save. Okay? So usually iCloud is the simplest and the best and the easiest. If you run out of iCloud space, you can purchase an extra 20 gigabytes for $40 a year. And that's in my iCloud class, which actually is on the website. So you do this document, and you've created this wonderful document, and maybe we should call this breakfast at Tiffany's or something like that since it's the guy eating breakfast. But I want to share it with someone. But they've not seen the light, and they're on a PC. So you can feel sorry for them, and you can still send it to them. So we've made this document, we've gotten it perfect, and we go up to share. And at share, it's Pages, Word, or PDF. So I had somebody that has Pages. They sent out to everybody a Pages document she'd made. And she didn't know that PC people or people that didn't even buy Pages on the Mac can't read it. So I immediately did it to a PDF, and for her, just to save her the time, because I would have had to work with her on it, I just immediately turned it into a PDF and sent it out to her whole list again for her. And so Pages will go to other Mac people if they have Pages, and they can then collaborate on it. But let's say where that newsletter text is, or Hobo font, remember we used Hobo font a minute ago? If they don't have Hobo font on their computer, it won't look right. So you have to be cognizant of that. And that's whether it's a Word. If somebody with Word used Hobo font and sent it to another Word person, if they don't have Hobo font, it's not going to work right. So Pages would be Mac to Mac. Remember, fonts may not work correctly, and you can send it via email to them. You can also send it as a Word document. You can now, certain things won't look correct on Word, and that's Word's fault. Because even when you have a Word document, you send it to somebody else, it's not always going to look right. So pity them and say, hey, you should upgrade and get Pages. But if you send it as a PDF, it's a virtual snapshot of what you have done. You just spent 2 hours getting the letters in the correct spot and getting your picture here, and if you send it to somebody else that doesn't have the same font or something, it can just look all mangled and everything. You're going, man, I really spent time on this. What do you think of it? And they're looking at it and kind of going, well, should I tell them it's not what it's supposed to look like? And just do that. Just PDF. PDF is common to every computer. It's a snapshot. It's like printing it, taking a photo of it, and giving them the photo. Question here first.
Sometimes I have done that and gone to PDF to send it, and sometimes it will send and sometimes it won't. And
Could be too large, which we're going to talk about in a second. We'll go back to that. Go ahead.
That was my question.
Okay.
Because they can't change it. That way, if it's a PDF, you get it on the other side, they can't add or...
That's a good thing, because you spent 2 hours on it, and they're just going to mess it up.
Oh, okay.
PDFs are not editable. PDFs are a snapshot. Okay? That's a good thing. It's very generic. And it looks right. Now, I also have export. I don't know why I need to get rid of that little thing there. Share. PDF Word. Rich text format. That's the lowest common denominator. It's not going to look very good, but it's very, very, very low. Need plain text. And EPUB. Believe it or not, you could write your great American novel in Pages and save it as an EPUB document and publish it as an ebook. Probably not on this, but probably not this particular thing, but yes, you could. And it's quite good. All right, so again, you can export it as a Word document to a Word, but make sure it's a simple document and if they're going to collaborate on it. Otherwise, just send the PDF. So if I'm going to send PDF, send via email as PDF, I simply click on that. Now, it's going to automatically fire up my mail, and there is the document right there. Okay? Speaking of the person that sent out that one that wasn't as that was a Pages, that's an email from her. All right. I'm sorry?
Reduce the size.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to that in a second, but this is a pretty good size, 175 kilobytes, because I don't have a lot on it. Never send anything larger than 5 megabytes. The reason being is some internet providers allow people to get it. Well, first of all, if they're on dial-up, you're going to hopelessly keep them locked to not be able to get any other mail for weeks at a time. But some email providers only allow 10 megabytes per message to pass. Others allow 20. Some are up to 100 now. But if your email provider allows you to send a 20 and you're sending a 15, let's say, you may have got it sent out perfectly, but their email provider doesn't let a message come in any larger than 10. They'll never see it. There's other ways to do that with Dropbox and things like that, but you know what you should do over in Pages is go up here to say File, Reduce File Size. And what that, look at this. So the PDF, first of all, I just did a PDF and it was pretty small. PDFs are smaller than the document itself. But if I go up to Pages here and say Reduce File Size, that photo might have been done with a 12 megapixel camera. In fact, mine was. Mine was done with a 12 megapixel camera. But it's pretty small on this page, so it downsamples it. It still gives all the clarity you need for what you're doing, but it downsamples it so that it basically compresses it. And this would save 4.87 megabytes on this document. Go ahead.
And when you do that, will the quality of the pictures stay sharp?
Yes, to the size that they are. Again, a 12 megapixel camera, I can blow up to 36 by 20 by 36 and it's going to be pretty darn clean. But this picture in this document is only going to be this size, so it's all the clarity you need for that. And that's how it does it. It downsamples it for what's being applied. Otherwise, a 12 megapixel picture is how many megabytes? 12, or just about that. So that would be huge in itself, the picture of the breakfast. That was, well, that was in RAW. Yeah, RAW it was 12 megapixel, but that one was, I think I cropped it a little bit. But anyway. Billy?
How did you go to reduce the size like that?
Up to File, Reduce File Size. Okay? Go ahead.
Why is it whenever I have a PDF as an attachment to an email, it always drops down below all of the emails, if the replies, responses back and forth?
You can set your mail to do it a little differently, but here's the weird thing is, you'll notice I have a 2-page document here. And when I sent it to mail, it came as an attachment, right? Let's change this, and let's delete this second page. Okay. Now, if it better work, share. Notice the difference? It's still an attachment. When a PC person gets it, it's going to be that blue wording with the line under it. Mac is smart enough to go, he just attached a PDF. Why don't we show him what it looks like? And a Mac user that gets it will see the PDF. If it's a multiple page document, it will always look like an attachment. But either way, it treats it the same. Okay? So, but to yours, that's a mail setting. You can say quote before text or after, whatever. But you'll notice it put it above my signature. That's me. Hang on, there's some other questions, Lou. Okay?
Did you reduce it when it was a PDF or before?
No, I reduced it within Pages. PDF will reduce it anyway because it takes and says, well, that picture's only this big. But sometimes the PDF doesn't reduce it enough, as I talked with Evan here earlier, but it's you get some other tricks you have to do. For the most part, it'll usually work. How many pages was the one you had that was so big? How many pages was that?
It was 3 pages.
Lots of photos?
Yeah, there was some.
Did you do reduce file size first?
Well, we didn't do that. We went and actually went and reduced the pictures in Iphoto and then brought them in and made them smaller. But
Yeah.
I think there's like 6 or 1 half dozen.
Yeah.
So many things.
Yeah, I wouldn't. That's a tough way to go through it. I do it this way, and there's some. I have to check because there's got to be a way to do it in the new preview. The old preview used to reduce it. You basically instead of go best, you turn it on better quality. But I'll look into that for you. Okay, so PDF is generally going to go out okay, and it downsamples it. And the other thing is, just so you know, everywhere you are on your Macintosh, whether you're in Safari or whether you're in Mail, if I go up to the word Print under File, look at this screen. Okay, I can print it, right? Let's say I did the GoDaddy thing earlier and I wanted to print the receipt they sent me. Well, if I print it, I'm just going to lose it, and I'm going to waste all that ink, which is my next tip. I forgot that one. Anyway, I want to just save it as a PDF on my computer. Everywhere you can print, you can save it as a PDF. So why not put that in a folder, back to folders, right? Like I have a folder called Purchases. And then I save it in there. So if anything ever comes up, why print it now when I go find the file and print it if I need it? Okay? The other thing you can always do anywhere you are, you can mail the PDF. To do that on a PC, you need a $400 program. Here, we just mail that PDF right there. It's a PDF of the website. Sure looks like it, doesn't it? Okay? So anywhere you have print, you can create a PDF. Because our Mac uses PDF to view everything, believe it or not. That's what it is. Go ahead.
My question has to do with you're reducing the digital photo from 45 by 20.
Nope, you're reducing the file size of the entire document.
What's that, sir?
You're reducing the file size of the entire document, which includes the photos.
Okay, so you're reducing it down to about a 6 by 4.
No. You're not changing the size. You're not changing the size. Good question. It's still an 8.5 by 11 document. I'm just putting less information in the document. It's compressing it essentially. It's saying, yeah, you got all this white space. Well, instead of saying that's this much white space like this, it's saying from here to here is white space. It's a calculation. It's a compression. You won't lose anything.
But will I have less megabytes when I want to send it as an attachment?
That's the idea of reducing file size. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And the reduction of file size does not reduce the quality of what you're doing. Okay? It doesn't reduce, well, it does, but you don't know it. Who cares? You're viewing it on a screen and you can print it out. In other words, you have much more information than it needs. It's reducing it only to the information that you can actually use. Now, if you took that photo of the guy fishing and then tried to save it back and blow it up to 20 by 30, that would be bad because it's reduced the photo to the size that's usable here and then go back. That's why you want to go to the full 13 megapixel photo. But just here, for this application, it works fantastic. And you got to use it sometimes because it gets big. Plus, it saves up more room on your iCloud.
Once you get a picture that's get a PDF and it's condensed, can you make it bigger?
Nope. You can never make something that you made small bigger and have good resolution. You don't do that. No. The PDF is to be how it looks on that page, 8.5 by 11. You wouldn't do it because it's not even a photo anyway. It's a PDF. Okay? It downsamples. That's a good thing, but in that case, you have to have the person send you the photo.
So I'm going to go back to when you made the attachment, and in pages, let's say it's a single page, and so it just shows you that single page. PC people are getting attachment. So
They will get it as a little...
Right, it'll look like a little thing. So if someone wanted to print that, and it was in pages, or they have like mail, could they just click on it and send it to their printer?
Well, what happens is like in here, we click on it, it fires up Preview. Hopefully, if you're using Acrobat Reader, get rid of it. Use Apple Preview. It's the best. On a PC, they have the free Adobe Reader program. It would fire it up in Reader. That's what reads PDFs for them, and would print it from there. So you're sending them a file that they use in Acrobat Reader, which is a PDF file.
But if you had actually had pages, let's say you had a Mac.
Pages doesn't make any difference here because it's a PDF. It would open it in preview. You can edit, you can use a PDF in preview, but you can't break the parts of it treats it as one whole image. It's an image. Once you put it in a PDF, that whole thing is a picture of that screen.
And I guess that's what I'm trying to say is that if somebody sent me a newsletter, and it was a single page, and so when I get it in Apple Mail, I just see the whole page. And let's say I click on that, I want to send it to my printer.
It opens in preview, and you hit print. Yeah. Preview is our default, hopefully, unless you've changed it, your default reader. Okay, let me go. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't have a share button at the top.
You have a little older one. So what you can do is, I think you go over here to save as or something in that regard. Yeah, and it's share is new up there, but it's still, you can always go, and again, what's the default is if you go to print, that makes so much noise. If you go to print, you can always say mail as PDF. All right, let's go back. Randy, go ahead quick.
While you have the inspector page up, I did a 4-page pages on the iMac at home, but I could not get the footnote or the footnote page number, like 1 of 4, 2 of 4. I could not get it to show up, so it just went without numbering. I couldn't get the headers, footers, things to work.
Did you do it in page layout or in? Yeah.
I don't
See, it works better if you do it in the other, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Okay. So, I'm sorry.
How do you fix that?
Well, do it in word processing rather than page layout.
So Ken, going back to that header thing, if you made your template, but if you wanted, say, to use a header now and again,
Just turn it back on.
can you just have it for the one page, the first page, and that? It seems
No, it does it. It does it for. So if you look at our inspector, it'll give it away right there. That's the document, the whole document, not a particular page. Okay, it treats the whole document forward. You don't have that ability to do it from one spot and move it forward. The next one is specific to each one. So the layout inspector. Well, actually, let's go back to document inspector. So we have different, you can do your top margins, your lower margins, etc. here. Table of contents, if you're doing that book or EPUB, you have the ability to do a linked table of contents. And just if you want your own information, and in fact, if you use this comment section right here, that's searchable by Spotlight. So that can be very helpful for you. Although Spotlight's going to search your entire document for you. But it's just if you decide you need that, that's great there. All right, so yes.
You mentioned Spotlight on the black page on the iPhone.
On the iPad.
iPad.
Yeah.
How do you?
I was going to try bringing it up earlier, but I'm having troubles with the internet connection. But if we look at my iPad here, the one that's for sale. Did I mention that? Did I mention it's for sale? No matter which way I'm in, normally you go, if you're a couple screens in, of course I have many. So you hit home, goes to the home page, hit home again, and you get this. And you get this up, and so I'm going to type in pages, P-A-G-E-S. I have so many apps, and this is Spotlight. And if you'll notice, I have a bunch of apps that say pages, and here's messages that have the word pages in them. And then, so that was a text message from Valerie, something about pages, and then search web search. So it's very similar to the Spotlight in here. One thing I'll say is the messages, this only the iOS devices, if it's set, usually it's, for each account, it only has 50 of the most recent emails in there. So it's only going to search within those, but then you can get more from the server if you want. But that's what Spotlight is. So did that answer that for you? Uh-huh. So back to the layout inspector. Now this is, how hard is it many times? So I'm going to do pages. I'm going to do a blank page. Or actually, so there's a blank page. And I'm going to go to layout and I say, actually here, I'm going to do text page. So I have a text page here. And let's go. Oh, don't I have a word one up? Oh, I don't. Let's do a new from template chooser. Blank word processing. And now I can do, actually what we should do is, I'll do one that has some stuff in it. Okay. So I can say, give me 2 columns. Give me 3 columns. Now, how much of a pain in the butt are columns on Word sometimes? Okay? Equal column width, or you can adjust the column width. If I deselect it, I can adjust particular column widths how I want. You can adjust what's called the gutters between each one, etc. And this you can do by section. Remember, the other thing is page layout or document layout. This you can decide to have a certain section do it, and then you've got all these different options there. We won't go into that, but the biggest thing here is you can do as many or as few columns as you want. And the gutter is actually the spot between them. So I'm going to make this one 1 inch. And see how it affects the gutter. The gutter is this. Get your mind out of the gutter, curb your thoughts. All right, word wrap. Let's take our apple pie. Actually, this is a, yeah, we'll use this example. So see how the keys are here? And the words wrap around the key, right? So what I can do here, word wrap can be a tough thing. And in fact, in the older pages, it used to automatically, anytime you put an object in, it would cause word wrap. And that made me angry because it was always tough. I had to undo it. But what word wrap is, it's object causes wrap. It's wrap the words around your object. So if we look at this, let's zoom this in a little. Will probably be easier for all of us. So let's move it over to here. Okay, so you see how the word wraps around this, okay? So you'll notice it's the object with the words to the left of it, right? I can make it object with the words to the right of it, okay? But in this case, I'd probably want to flip the keys that way, right? Okay. Now, I can have the word wrap by the middle of it. In fact, probably to make this a little better, I'm going to reduce the size of these keys. Boy, that's pretty tough, isn't it? Okay, my hands have never left my wrists. And the thing is that you can adjust the text fit down here lower. Notice where it says extra space. I can decide to let it come closer to my object, which for a small column like this works pretty well. And that sticks wherever it is. And remember, what we're doing is we're working with the buffer around our object. We haven't touched the text. Okay? Bless you. So I think sometimes it's too much to do it. But, the different object placements are inline floating. That's one that I really like, so you can put an object in place over it. But you have to play with those, and the best thing to do is do a test document and see it. We're going to spend a little more time on text because that's really important. So let's use this same text thing. We have a text box right here. Billy?
Yeah, it seems every time I put a picture on it, it all automatically goes into that.
If you're in word processing, it will automatically create wrap. If you're in page layout, it won't.
Right, I guess, okay. Thank you.
And that's what really threw people initially. We always started that way with pages, and people tried. I did too in the beginning. I said, "Oh, pages, it's what a piece of junk." It's, you know. And what it was is every time it would create it, it'd have this weird word wrap, thinking I wanted that. Well, it didn't read my mind, and I didn't, and most people don't. But if you go with page layout, it doesn't default to that. But as you can see, something like this, it's really nice to have it. Let's say it's a newsletter and you want the article to go around the photo, okay? Not on a round thing like this, but a square one. Now, I'm going to show you some totally cool things about text. So if we go down here, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And we have the word newsletter up there. Okay, I'm going to put MacNexus. Now, I just typed over it. It kept the same font, right? But you'll notice that's not as wide as newsletter was. So if I click on that and I say, well, let's increase the character spacing. Now on Word, you'd have to hit apply, go back and look, hit apply. And when you hit apply, the Command Z wouldn't work because you applied it. I can Command Z back all I want. It's on the fly. Okay? Now, when I go down to, let's say, this section right here, I can adjust the character space. I can do the slider if I want, but I like to just use these, or I could put in what I want. Now, how many times you've been working on something and you go, you know, we always used to use that justify to both ends, and then the problem is the words, some letters are spaced this far apart. You can use your spacing for this. In fact, what this does is it makes it so you don't have to use that justify both ways. Now, another cool thing is line spacing. How many times are you working on this and you got a little 3-page brochure and it just doesn't fit right? I can adjust my line spacing. You know, everybody always goes, well, I want double. Well, look at that. I put them a lot together, or, I'm not clicking right, farther apart. So you can adjust however you want on the fly. Before paragraph and after paragraph, let's see here. It's actually the line spacing for just between paragraphs, okay? And there's another one you can do for after paragraph. Inset margin, how far you want it inset. It's a margin within the whole thing. It's not your indentation. It's inset margin and not indentation margin, okay? So the fast ones, the ones you have up here, like in this thing, you can center the text, you can justify it left, right, etc., and up and down. The other thing it uses are what's called text box. Text box is this if you're in page layout. So now you can hardly see that. So I'm going to actually highlight the text. We'll bring it up to 48. And we'll make it some color that stands out. And I'll make the box a little bigger. So there, now I have this text box, right? Kind of hard to see over this, right? This is supposed to say Breakfast of Champions, let's say. Okay, well, yeah, that kind of blades in there, but I really like that magenta color. So what I'll do is I'll move this up a little, and then, well, I can go to the graphic inspector next to it and say, let's fill the background with white, or say a gray. Okay, so I'm doing the background. I can actually even make the background slightly opaque. Oh, I think we might have found something there, huh? But let's say that I really like the color of the brown on this key fob over here, okay? I'm going to go back to my text, and I'm going to, instead of that magenta, I'm going to pick a color. I highlight the color, and I'm going to grab this little magnifying glass, which isn't Spotlight this time, and I'm going to grab that magnifying glass. Let me make sure I'm on the right thing. Come on here. I always test it. I go, oh, okay, that's what I'm on. Oh, I want all my letters to be that. So I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to drag this magnifying. I'm going to drag this magnifying glass. Wow. This is where you would start it and stop it. Let's see what's happening here. There we go. Breakfast of Champions. Wow. All right. That being said, or not said, let's change this to that color. Okay, so let's go back and let's go to here, see if it's working here now. Wow. Oh, that's not going to do it. Okay, I didn't click color and alignment text. select my text, select the box. There we go. So I want this text to not be one of the colors here. I want it to be the same brown from the key fob, right? Watch this. It's now the exact same brown as the key fob. So if you have a company that has, say, 3 special colors, you can now save this color because we got it from the key fob, right? I can drag this color down here, and that color is saved forever. If I open it in Numbers and I open it in Keynote or iWeb, that same palette's there. So you can make a line of color palettes. Many companies have, say, 3 colors. Or you can go to these sites that have the wonderful colors. I mean, you've seen them from the paint stores. The wonderful colors that work together. You can build your own color palettes. Okay? So, and I use the, as Pete says, it's like the simplistic. The crayon thing is great because you can kind of see what you want to do with it. And they're very simple colors. They're very basic. But if I want something different, I'll go down here and I'll get the same green I used in MacNexus. Boom. Okay? That magnifying glass works everywhere on your Mac like that. Except for Word. I'm sorry. It works in the, like, if you're doing fonts in text or in email, in Numbers, Keynote. So the other thing we want to do with this little Breakfast of Champions things is let's dress it up a little bit and let's say, well, we want the text to be centered, and let's do the color, the spacing a little bit there. See, that's too much. But let's get the font a little lower. I click on fonts. Oh, that's Hofer text, okay. So we'll go down to 24, so now it's in one line. And now I can bring this down, and let's make this a little smaller. And see, it automatically goes to the width that I want of the thing, and there we go. And actually, I'm going to make it centered up and down. So that's a stupid color for what we're trying to do. So let's make it ugly. There we go. All right. Now, what's really neat is, watch when I move this around. You see that little blue line show up? That says, oh, those 2 objects are centered on each other. And it actually kind of sticks to it. I move it, it kind of sticks. I don't have to be super accurate. But if I want it to be centered on the entire page, look at that. The blue line shows center of the page. Oh, if I want to line it up with the pie, see there's the pie down there. Now it's lined up with the pie. If it's lined up with this thing, I move it over there. If I want it on the page, it's up and down. So use those, because how many times do you want to stack some objects and things like that to work well with you? It is wonderful. I'm clicking and dragging. Good point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right to the center of the page. Now look what happens. There I'm on the center of the page. Now if I move this up, there. It showed me where I am vertically and horizontally. Keynote does the same thing. In fact, one really neat thing about Keynote is it'll show you spacing between objects. Like if you want to have 3 things across, it'll show you spacing in there too. Go ahead.
On the box that you've got right now.
The little plus sign?
Yeah, the Breakfast of Champions. Those little blue tabs on the left and the right. What are those for?
You'll find out if you go to the class event.
There.
All right. Let me talk about it 1 second. But you notice the plus sign here? What it means is obviously, when I did this, I think I had another letter in here, so I'm going to do that. Yeah, I had a space in there. And what the plus meant, I had more hidden beneath the thing. But what these little things are on the side are, see this article right here? Many times, if you're writing a newsletter, you may have text here that extends to another column over here. So let's do that. It's probably easier to show than it is to do. So I'm going to do a layout here. So now I'm going to make a text box. And I should just get a bunch of copy here. So I'm just going to get this fake. Oh, well, this has actually got it. but okay, I don't know if it copied it. All right, move some things out of the way. This is why I use 2 monitors at home. I keep my palettes on one monitor and that on the other. So I'm just going to take like this, and I'm going to, so now that's an article, but I'm going to put the rest of that article down here. So let's show how that works. I'll go back. I click on the blue arrow, and it says, click another text box. So if I have an existing text box, click on this. It's linking the two together. And what color is that little line that we do it? It's non-repro blue, so it's not going to show up. And it says remove the link, etc. But in this case, I said, let's just draw a text box. And wherever I put that text box, now let's show you what's cool about this linking. Let's say that I edit this, and this is hard because it's all as one unit. Let me just, I got to get some real text. Hang on here. The fake text that they put in is not all that editable. So let me just go find a Wikipedia, wiki.com. I'm just going to go grab some text. Oh, apple pie. Apple. Why go wiki.com? I'm going to go there. Come on. Oh, here, we'll go to PowerMac. So here's text. I do that only in person. It's only when the internet's like being the internet. Let's just go to MacNexus. I'm sorry about this, not having a text. I probably have a document. I don't have a lot of text in most of my documents. So I'm just going to copy this text. Oh, that's not going to work there. We'll copy this text. Okay. So sorry for the interruption. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to do a text box, and I'm going to paste that in my text box, okay? Oh, great. It's not going to work very well. Let me find a document I've got up here. Open recent. Ah. Joanne's things, maybe.
Inexpensive, isn't it?
Yeah, that'll be boring. All right, I'm going to just take this text because this is real text. The problem was the internet, it formats it a little different. And I'm going to go back to my text box. All right, so I've created a text box with real text in it, okay? So there's the end of it. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to create a second text box right here. And they're linked to one another. So you can see how you could have photos on one and go around it. So this is ultimately linked to this other text box. But why in the heck would you do that? Because if you know the text, you know how it's going to lay out. But how many times have you written something and then decided that you need to go up here and write, now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country, period, new paragraph. This way, if you add text in between it, it will flow to the other text box, period. So the idea is, it's not a fixed text box because you write that article and then somebody gets a last minute change and you have to change it, it will flow into the other text box. And that other text box can exist on another page, in fact. I could take that text box, continued on page 2. Randy works for the SAC-B. They do this in articles all the time. And that does that. Okay? So it's ultimately linked to it. Just so you know, I can draw a shape as a rounded rectangle, let's say, and not? I can write text in it like that, but I don't think oh, it won't let me link to it because it's a shape. That's interesting. I didn't know that. But did you notice I did a rounded rectangle box and I just happened to paste text in it? Okay? And again, you can adjust the sides. So let's get fun with this little box. I mean, you can see how you're doing a neat little newsletter here. Well, when you go to objects, there's color fill, gradient fill, image fill. I could even take my image from Iphoto and, there's nothing there. But anyway, you could make it be a picture in the background. And I'm not going to do that. But if I want to go here to the line, I can say make that a picture frame around this. And I can change the size of the line around it. Or I really like that one. That's a line, but let's go to picture frame and I'll show you the one that works really well. Look at that. Kind of a torn corner kind of thing. And see, it stays with it. Okay, so that's the line. Instead of this boring little black line around it, you can put whatever you want around it.
And a shadow.
Yep, well, you wouldn't shadow this,
No,
but let's go back to a regular line. Actually, let's get cool again, and let's go back to our, here's our, I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to change it to here. I'm going to paste that picture here. And let's say I want to make this picture have a reflection. And that would look good on a black background. So I can make a black square behind it. Make it a little bigger. That'll make the reflection show up better. Take the fill color right from here. Make it black. Oh, that's green. That's pretty ugly. Color fill. Black. Arrange. Send to back. Now look at how that reflection shows up. And then I could take that old breakfast at Champions and even put it down here. You can do shadows like this little thing we were on. There's a shadow around it, see? But I can offset it. I can make the shadow bigger. I can determine the angle of the shadow. Okay? What's really cool is, let's say I have this kind of by there. I can even change the opacity of that object, right? That's the whole thing. I can change opacity along the way. I can change opacity of color. And again, you can do gradient fills, let's say. And again, there's just so many things you can go into. You can see why it really needs a 3-hour, well, no, it needs a 6-hour program. But everything we've done here, I'm going to save this. Or it's actually saved. Oh, I probably have to name it. Hopefully it's saving it to the cloud. Now, let's see if we got Wi-Fi working. I might have, hopefully I'm on the right Wi-Fi. Make sure, well, it's not going to show up on my computer, but I'm going to go to Pages here just to show you it exists. And if I go to Pages here, it'll update.
that's my same.
You know, our internet is so slow, it's not up here yet, but it would show up in your pages right here. These are ones I've done on my Mac that I've never did here, and they're automatically there on the cloud. So I could simply open them and edit more. You can do almost everything here that you can do there. There's a few things you can't.
That's coming from the cloud.
Yeah, because this was saved to the cloud. Oh, let's make sure I'm on the... Move to cloud. Nope, it's already on the cloud. Yeah, you know, it's just there's a delay because of the internet, because it's putting the thing up there. I apologize for that, but anyway, hopefully I felt you left. Hopefully I've left you wanting more, because there is so much more, and there's a ton of resources out there. If you're in Pages, go up here to Help, and look at this. There's Welcome to Pages and video tutorials. And they're wonderful, okay? I have an old Pages class I did that was a 3-hour, actually a 6-hour class I have posted. If you guys email me, I'll give you the link to, I'll post that up and email the link to that. But Pages is very, very capable, and it also works with other things very well. So, any questions? Go ahead.
Under arrange, what's the difference between go to the back and send it back?
Okay, good question. So under arrange, you have go to back, go to front, or incrementally. If I have 3 pieces of paper stacked on my desk, and I'm looking at the top one, I say go to back, it goes to the bottom. If I say go back, it incrementally one at a time. Okay, does that make sense? So it's just layers. Again, you think, the way I like to look at it is you think of the old thing where they had glycine overlays, the transparent overlays, and you had a red and a green and a blue, which is, by the way, what alpha is. But just think of it like that, and what you're doing is just putting another one up to the top like that. So that's arrange, and it's a stack is what it is. And that's very common in a lot of different programs.
You send something from your Mac to an iPhone of the Pages, can you? Or is it
Well, if you send a PDF, did that come in, by the way?
Yeah.
And it worked?
Yes.
Oh, but did you go to iBooks? Generally speaking, if you send yourself a PDF, you can say open in iBooks. I, in fact, have manuals I've emailed, PDF manuals of, like, you know, the toaster probably. I probably have, you know, how to operate my toaster or something. But anyway, I just get the PDF in the email. I click on it, and they say open in iBooks, and it saves it in iBooks. And iBooks has 2 different type of collections. It has a PDF collection, and it has a real iBooks collection. And I do that all the time. I have tons of manuals in here that are different things that I need, because I do a lot of tech support stuff. So that's how that works. Did it open?
It's in iBooks here. Yes.
It did in iBooks. So earlier during the break, I sent Randy a PDF of the document we were working on, and he just opened it on his iPad and it went right in there. That wasn't through the iCloud, that was through an email PDF, because he was having trouble. I think it's probably the way your mail puts it together and sends it to you. It's probably collating it as a form. What you need to do is probably get a PDF and attach the PDF rather than email the PDF. So that's why I wanted to try that. So, thank you very much. Don't forget. Thank you. If you go to empowermac.com, we have a map on there. It's Sierra View Country Club in Roseview. Yes, Sierra View. And it's a wonderful location and a beautiful setting. Thank you.
I know, that's my fault.
Ken, that was great.
One sec here.
And if I write you a check,